All good? Okay. Welcome to A Long and Long Time Ago. With me, Adam. I've got Martin here as always. You all right?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Adam. Good.
Today, we've also got a special guest on for our Talking Star Wars series. We've got all the way from Canada. It's Darth Wizzy Wizard, a.k.a. Nick. How's it going, Nick?
Not too bad. Good to finally meet you, Adam.
Absolutely, and you. So really, we've got you on because anyone that's seen your YouTube channel will see that you're a huge collector as well. Just like Martin, I can't say that for myself, but we're getting there.
We'll change that. We'll change that.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So yeah, you're a sort of super collector, really huge collector of Star Wars action figures. Is that fair to say? Is it all Star Wars that you collect?
You know what? I'm trying to. I started getting back into it 2021, I think it was, or late 2020, 2021. I think it was just as the Razor Crest was closing down for the HasLab, so I missed that. But primarily, like, there are other IPs, intellectual properties, that are run by various, studios of Hollywood that I am interested in, but I'm trying to focus primarily on Star Wars because I don't want to get distracted from, because it's not like I have a massive budget that I can just buy everything I want.
I think my lotto feel tickets, your pain there.
Yeah, the lotto ticket hasn't come through yet, so I'm getting a little terribly vexed.
Yes, yeah. So when did it all sort of start for you? You say that you got back into it in 2021, but sort of when did it start? Has it been a long-term thing?
Well, it started obviously in the original trilogy because I'm much like Martin. I'm not sure, Adam, when you got into Star Wars or what generation. You look a little younger.
I'm a little bit younger than Martin, not a lot, but yeah. I
when were you born?
I'm 85, so I've missed the boat on the original trilogy until my dad sort of introduced it all to me a few years.
That's right.
Later.
Yeah, so I was born in 80, so just as Empire Strikes Back was hitting the theaters, that's when I entered into the picture. But I was introduced to Star Wars extremely early. I think the first words I spoke was ape, like a gorilla, when I was like an infant. And then the next thing I was imitating was Darth Vader. Apparently, that's what my mom said. So, the commercials in Star Wars, as we know, was such a massive cultural dynamic shift in the world. I mean, it was, you can't underestimate how big that was. It really did change everything, right? So when Return of the Jedi was coming to the theaters, I was living in a town called Milton, and I did have some of the Revenge of the Jedi, like I think it was like a sticker or something, because I remember they were handing that stuff out before. Nice. So I was, I wasn't even 3 years old yet, and I had already seen like most of Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. I think the only part of Empire Strikes Back I wouldn't watch was when the Wampa would come out, which I would think is like the abominable snowman, right? So, but that's basically, so it's been ingrained very early
from a young age. Yeah.
I have a picture of me, I think in like early or late 82. I think it was like the Christmas of 82, and I already had the Darth Vader case. And then I had a few figures, and and that's when G.I. Joe had started also. So I was into G.I. Joe as a kid as well, but Star Wars defeated everything. It eventually, even as a kid, like you were kind of pressured sometimes to get into other IPs. There was like in schools and stuff like that. You had to like He-Man or Action Man. Especially in the UK, and and sometimes you kind of go in and out of some of them, but Star Wars was always the one that won out in the end.
Yeah, definitely. So you were very young when you got your first collectible, so chances are you're not going to remember what it was.
You know what? I'm not sure. I remember playing with C3PO. I remember getting the C3PO with the removable limbs as the second one, because I think I broke the first one that was probably on like either an Empire or even a Star Wars card back, because I did have some of the Star Wars card backs. I tried to save some of this stuff, even at a very early age. I think that might have been brought on by my sister, because she was very artistic, but also into, comics and things like that. So I think the idea of saving everything was starting to, keeping things in box. I think it's in North America, the US and Canada, it was, I think there was a lot of fans or, people that saw the opportunity in it. And that's why you have so many of these mint on card, original Kenners showing up. People knew like this idea that it was, and then there were millions of them. I remember even in the 90s looking at, like, there was a store called Brian's Toys. I know I'm ranting now, but or going off on a tangent.
Know Brian's Toys. Did he go out of business quite recently?
I don't know. I think he's still active. I think he had some sort of there was something that happened in the 2000s, I think, where he went through some sort of problem. I forget what it was. I mean, I really wasn't collecting past 2002 or 2004, I think, is when I got out of it. I got tired of it. You had to concentrate on to other things, but I remember when they were bringing this stuff out in the early mid 90s, like 93, 94. And when you go on the internet, it would be dial-up internet. So you'd be sitting there for like an hour, and they'd show 12 back Obi-Wan, and it would be like, I don't know, like I forget what the prices are, but $300-400 maybe for a mint on or something like that. Canadian or American, sorry.
Those were the days.
You got to do currency conversions, but they were bringing out pallets of stuff like that they had. I remember this. They had pallets of stuff still mint, or right from the factory. Right. It wasn't just. There was a lot of people had a lot of this stuff, and I think a lot of the collectors now that are getting into it don't really know how much millions of these were made. In that period of time of the 80s, 70s, late 70s, 80s. How much of that stuff is still out there? But
I do remember.
But it was
sorry, Nick. I mean, I do remember myself. I was kind of 10, 12 years old, and I was at one of the seaside towns here in the UK, and I went into this shop, and there was this giant bargain bucket. Huge. It was like a big barrel, basically. It was filled with Return of the Jedi mint on cards. And they were just throwing them in there. They were literally like, we'll pay you to take them away. Because I think it was sort of 86, 87. And it was, when Star Wars had kind of gone from the sight of everybody. And you could pick up these mint on cards. And to this day, I regret more than anything in the world that I didn't pick up about 20 of those for 25 pence each and pop them in a box and hide them in the attic.
Oh God. I mean, like, the worst part of it for me is that I knew, but by about 80, I was about 6 years old, but by that time, like, I knew that these, I was like, I really want to keep these in the box. I would always try to keep the card backs. So I remember probably around 84, I think I got a Luke Skywalker X-Wing, and I got the actual X-Wing around 84. And I remember peeling it off the card, and I'd have this, my parents would have this, they'd have people over, and sometimes their kids would come in, and they kept stealing my Luke X-Wing. So I ended up getting like 3 or 4 of them in the end. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not losing this figure. And she would always take the card back away because, she'd think it's sort of trashy to keep all that stuff. So I had to like hide. So I actually do have some of the original card backs that I have to dig them out. But, back then it was just like, take it out of the package. There you go. I do have some of the pamphlets from mostly Return of the Jedi stuff. primarily, but it was it's
Wild
I
times.
feel you, man.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, Martin, how old are you right now,
I'm
or were you
44.
like when were you born?
I'm
Okay, yeah. So you're
1978 I was born. Yeah.
yeah. So like you could see like if you maybe were another year older, you
Mm,
might have or a
yeah.
couple of years older, you probably would have bought them all, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And you probably would have had cases of them.
Yeah. I mean, just sort of, go away from the collecting just for a second. My obviously I had seen Empire Strikes Back as a child on VHS, and I probably had seen Star Wars, although I don't remember it. But for me, the original trilogy, and it's obviously not the popular opinion, but for me, my favorite of the three movies is Return of the Jedi, and I think that's because I got to go to the cinema, and I vividly remember it now, actually being in the cinema, and I
Yeah.
remember the Battle of Endor. And so I
Mm.
was just going to ask you, of the three films, which would of the original trilogy, which would be your favorite?
That's extremely hard for me to say. I think as a kid, I would probably, generally speaking, depending on my mood and the
Mm.
day that you talk to me, I'd probably say Return of the Jedi
Yeah.
because I remember that vividly. I remember seeing it in Milton the first time.
Mm.
And then, the script problems, like you wouldn't really pick up on them. Like, when you find out Leia is actually the sister,
Yeah.
although you can kind of see some of that. I mean, as a more mature audience, like the Star Wars and Empire generation had seen those movies, that was kind of a bit of a letdown with the Ewoks, right? Because they were just
Yeah.
like starting to play this to kids, even though. I mean, I love the Ewoks because I grew up with them. You watch the TV show that they launched, Caravan of Courage, and then the Battle of Endor.
That's
Like those
right.
were smashing hits.
Mm.
Just as Adam was being born in '85.
Mm.
Like Star
I've
Wars
not
could have
seen
kept
those.
going. You know what? You should. I mean, they're. You got to look at it from like it was. They were rushed TVs. Like if you study film and things like that, like there's
Yeah.
a lot to them. I'd still say they're better than the sequel trilogy,
Mm.
but
No comment.
We better not get into
yeah,
that.
let's not go down that rabbit hole. But the one thing I will say is that it's some of the neighbors that I lived with. Eventually, I moved to a place called Oakville, and across the street from me was a gentleman. I forget his name. I think his name was like Fred or something. He's probably passed away, but he was like the president or whatever of I think it was Grandin Toy, and so they used to bring in toys as well. And I remember I used to go across to him, and he was best friends with all the people that are good friends. They would all meet each other with like Toys R Us and Kmart, and then they would say, "Man, I wish we had Star Wars back," because every Christmas time they would play it on the CTV here around Toronto or whatever on any cable, or as soon as they start showing that, all of a sudden they get tons of kids coming. Where's the Star Wars stuff? And sometimes they find some of the boxes, bring some of it out, and it would clear out like crazy. You get like a frenzy for that type of stuff. So the demand, I think, was still there. But George stopped making the films, and he could have made some decent TV series in that. But anyways,
What did you think of Willow?
I loved Willow, the first movie.
I loved Willow.
It was. I thought people kind of. I think some of the hate that came to Willow. I remember being in the lineup to go see the movie Willow, and
I guess.
In Hamilton, and I think that came out around '87 or '88. So I was a little older, but I remember being in the lineup, and people were like, "Oh, I just can't wait till he gets all these movies." Like people were saying, like, "I want to see another Star Wars movie," because they knew it was a George Lucas film. So I think Willow took a hit in that regard. I think the fans were kind of, we were fickle back then. We wanted more Star Wars, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the whole midget little people thing didn't. I hate to say this, I don't think it went over as well with people as the way it probably could now, or eventually it did with
Lord of the Rings.
Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Like people weren't. I remember being in the theater and people like, oh, those midget. There was a bit of an ignorance or bigotry, I guess, to a certain extent in regards to. I think that took a hit on it, but I loved Willow. I thought it was great. I've heard the new series. I watched about a minute of the trailer, and I'm just like, I'm not even gonna go down that path.
No,
That
I watched the first episode, and trust me, you just don't want to sully the memory of the movie.
Yeah, it's bizarre because I watched the latest Top Gun film, and I was just like, that's how you do it. Like, what do you guys like? I don't understand how they could be, even for I know it's all corporations that obviously they're sitting in their meetings and they want their they put everything in the boxes of what they want done, and but they're totally disconnected. I find, unfortunately, the entire film industry for like you have to watch 10 movies to watch one good one now. And they have the actors. I mean, they get them all from you guys from the UK. Most of the best, it's all from these London stage performers. Like you look at every actor, Liam Neeson, just go on and on. Alec Guinness
in the Marvel universe. There's so many Brits now, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, you guys got it down. I mean, usually I'd say have a couple Americans, but you need a Brit in there for sure, whether he's from Scotland or England or Welsh. I don't care.
Yeah.
Irish, doesn't matter. You need somebody from the UK in there. They just I don't know. We should edit that part out. I don't want to hurt everybody's feelings, but it's true.
No, well, it's fact, isn't it? Let's get back to collecting a little bit. Now you offline, we were chatting the other day, and we were doing a video call, and you were showing me some of your collection, and I have to say it's a very impressive collection. What give us 2, 3, 5, however many you want of your favorite pieces, and a bit of history behind collecting them, perhaps, or why you love them so much.
Okay. First rule I'll say is favorites are usually it would have to be the original trilogy Kenner card backs done on the vintage collection, and that would probably be like, that's essentially sort of my criteria. So I'd say that's a good question. I give you a couple. I think VC 115, the Darth Vader's Emperor's Wrath one.
Yeah, that's great.
Of mostly TDC 1.0.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you can get them unpunched. I mean, if you look at, this is, you look at the actual bubble on these, it's not overly too big.
You're just winding Adam up now, aren't you?
Showing off the Django fit. The Django fit that I don't have. Yeah.
Adam, we have to have a segment on here where we can just sort of discuss, about you getting your collection going, right? I mean, it's going, but
it's
sometimes, mate, you got to dive in.
It's getting there slowly.
Well, it takes. Here's one tip that since you're putting your toes in. There's a guy named Jules Burt. You've probably seen his YouTube channel. Anyways, he's an OG collector, but he says, he's like, if you just do a little bit here and get a few figures here, and get bits and pieces, bits and bulbs, Anyways, he had a good sort of analogy. It's not a race, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, I take that back. Just get some money together and just spend like 20,000.
Yeah, you've said on a number of occasions, you can't pass up these opportunities when they land in your lap. So,
well,
if the money's there, you definitely do, don't you? You get it. But see, I love that as well. Yes, what are you doing?
That was another one that you missed out on, Adam.
Yeah, like sometimes, man, you got to dive in a bit, but I get it. It's you can only spend so much. But back to my favorite.
Sorry, Nick, can you just flash that one up on screen again? And
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
Yes.
is it the Saga collection? Bounty
Yeah.
Hunter
So
figure,
that
yeah.
one came out
Bounty Hunters.
2005.
Yeah.
The Dengar is fantastic. I mean, the IG-88's pretty good still. Um, the Bosk I find is still great.
Mm.
I mean, they've gotten better. I mean, as time's going on, I've got some of the new TVC ones. The 1.0, the Forlom and Succus, the 2-pack, and then I also have another foil one.
Yeah. Yeah. Only my holy
I think
grail right
it's.
there.
I always get the. Yeah, well, you really like the alien ones, right? The Forlom and Zuckuss
Mm.
are your favorites. So for me, it was more Dengar and Fett, but Bosk used to scare the hell out of me back in like '83.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, but
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
but yeah, it's basically the card backs as far as favorites. Anything from the Kenner. The one thing I would like to get is the SDCC set. The Death Star set.
Oh, I'd love to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, and you know what? There's a side story on that one. I almost got that back in 2011 because I got out of collecting and I was collecting a lot of World War II miniature stuff and World War One, and because I do like that type of history stuff. But now I've moved totally back into Star Wars. I abandoned too much on the Star Wars. Big mistake. But I remember they were selling that one. I tried to bid on it on eBay, and then the price just kept getting I kept losing. I was just like, F it. I'll just buy it for clearance in like 10 years, and all these guys are going to sell it. What an idiot.
Yeah.
Now it's so much more expensive.
So expensive
but,
now. Yeah.
So basically, I would say, anyways, Darth Vader VC 115, I think, is an absolute must. I would have liked it if they just put it on the card without the blue, the lightning.
Yeah.
I do like that variant, but I wish they did it, just to have the upgraded, because I have the Kenner version of that on card.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's probably like I don't know. It depends on the grading system now because everything's changed. Back originally when I was looking at that stuff, it was all like the C8, C9, like the C1 to 10 kind of grading scale from the 90s or whatever. It's still ingrained in my mind, but that was a key figure. I think the TIE Interceptor. I think that's an absolute beautiful one from 2013.
That's gorgeous.
Two reasons.
You collect a lot of vehicles as well, don't you? It's not just figures.
Oh yeah. I have to put the funds together to eventually get the barge, which has kind of eluded me. I had a guy 2 months ago where I almost got that, but then he's just like, no, I want to hold on to it. He wanted like 2,400 Canadian, right? I thought that was enough, right? I was like, oh, come on. Like, just, I feel like I'm spending way too much already for that. I mean, that's like an episode for Hasbro where it's just, we get into the HasLabs and like, oh, they're making this new stuff. So, it's, that's a tough one right there. But, so that's one that I definitely would like to get because that's a key piece right there. I would love that. I recently got the Millennium Falcon, but it's the Smuggler's Run version.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to eventually swing the vintage collection one, but I want the box in excellent condition, because I intend to use that for display. Wow. There's two different people I know selling them right now where I think I could probably swing that, but I don't know. There's so many other figures and things I still want to, right? So it's sort of, and I missed getting that about a year and a half ago. A guy had one, I think for like 400 Canadian. It had a little bit of damage on the box. Then he had a mint one for 600, which I was like, well, do you have that? Do you want? He's like, okay, well, I'll let you know because I got another guy. And then the other guy bought it. Yeah. And then you had all these scalpers, which is actually where we could get into an interesting episode because I noticed around here, at least in the GTA, you had all these people clearing out all these stores and then they were jacking up the prices 20-30%. And I've seen that even on eBay.
Yeah,
quite a bit of even I'll say shill bidding as well. where you get, I think there's been some of that going on. So I think Adam, you're actually coming into a right time, because the market, I think you can get some opportunities there.
Yeah.
If you find some people that are clearing out some collections. I don't know about in the UK as much, but I know in Canada and the US, there's tons of this stuff around. Like even the rare Canadian variant Yoda. I'm starting to see some of that stuff around. So like, you might be able to score some stuff for significantly less, if you really want certain items over others and what you're willing to spend.
You
right?
did a really interesting video on that a couple of weeks ago about how prices were just bottoming out on the vintage collection.
There's a guy, Martin, living about half an hour down the road from me, and he has like boxes of it, right? And he had Canadian Yoda. It was punched. He wanted way too much for it. I'm just like, well, I just saw a guy sell one in Norway for like 1,300, I think, shipped. I'm thinking Canadian dollars right now.
Yeah.
So what's the English pound at right now?
The US dollar, it's 122, but I don't know about the Canadian dollar.
Yeah, we're like I gotta spend $1.50 for one English pound, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Something like that, roughly. But it's not even a bad idea. Even if you guys come to Canada for a vacation, you bring your pounds here, you'd be able to score tons of stuff around here. You just go on Facebook. Best place to go is probably Montreal first, because I don't know what it is. All those Frenchies, they seem to have all the stuff I want. But they're bastards, man. I almost got the SDC set, I think, a year and a half ago as well. But this guy, we agreed on a price at like 24. I think it was like 2,500. And then this guy I'm like, okay, fine. Give me like a couple of weeks, and I'll send you the money. We'll do the deal. Can you do that? He's like, yeah, I agree. And then I come back to him. He's like, no, 4,500. Right? I'm just like, oh God. I was just like, oh my God, man. Like just stuff like that. Right. But so I think it's more of, from a favorite list, it's a lot of stuff I don't have yet, but I got the second one that I think, or maybe even that's the most favorite, is my Empire Strikes Back TVC a.k.a. the AT-AT.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on, so I got that one. It's the Canadian variant or version. It's not the American one with that silver symbol thing. I never really had a chance to really look at in detail and close on that one, but there's two variants there. I actually have two boxes for that. And that was sort of a headache too, but I won't go into that, of getting that off of like, it was bad timing. They were selling one. There's a place called Bounty Hunter Toys in Hamilton. It's about 2 or so hours away from me where I live now. And they had it there for like 400 Canadian. So that'd be like 300, English pound or whatever. But, now you see a lot of them, they're like 600, 700, 800, depending, and then if you get it shipped from here to the UK, like that would suck for you guys. But, I think so anyways, go on.
I was just going to say, what lines do you collect other than the vintage collection? Because I think I've seen you pick up some Black Series stuff as well.
Yeah, Black Series, I'll get the 40th anniversary stuff. I'm trying to stay away from just the regular Black Series line. If it's original trilogy, it's hard to resist though. Like even in the US or Canada, you'll see all those Landos, those General Landos. I don't know what's wrong with collectors, man, but like even I can't resist picking an extra, what are you guys doing, man? Like, and I see like and back to the vintage collection, I see all the Empire Strikes Back, like Lando figures. I don't know what people are. I don't know why they're leaving those. I mean, like that's a beautiful card back. Like I don't know, like what kind of collectors we got nowadays. But
I think as well. I was watching another one of your videos on your channel, and you were talking about, and I'm not as good as you with the numbers, but I think it's VC64 Slave Layer.
Oh yeah,
that's one of my favorite card backs.
Do you have that yet, Martin?
Oh yeah, I've got the revenge variant. I don't have the return variant card back, but
Oh,
I have it unpunched.
yeah, you got to get that.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
I have the proof card of her. She's actually one of say just put her in my top five favorite for the
mm,
hell of it.
mm,
That's one of the most beautiful card backs.
mm,
Even though that's not an OG Canada one, that's right up there. Like that's
yeah,
a really nice shot
it is.
of
Yeah, yeah. The one you've got,
Carrie
it
Fisher.
looks lovely. It looks really nice and mint.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of variants on that one. We can quickly go over that. You can get the proof card, which I recommend getting those as soon as you can.
Mm,
Um, I have a proof card of hers, unpunched. There's the offered one, Revenge, which
yeah.
you have. I have that one as well. And then there's the Return of the Jedi and the Revenge of the Jedi, but Canadian variants.
Mm.
Right? I don't know what you guys have the European variants of it. I would imagine maybe that one was done there as well.
Yeah.
And then you have the SDCC exclusive Revenge of the
That's
Jedi
Oculus,
one as
isn't it?
well. So I think there's like 5 or 6, maybe 6 variants because maybe there's a variant of.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe a variant of the Return of the Jedi one too in the UK for European and then the United States. So maybe there's 8 or 9 of them out there. I don't know.
Yeah. There was a point in Vintage Collection 1.0 where in the Europe we would basically get the US cards and they basically slap this big black sticker on the back. You've probably seen them.
Yeah,
just so they wouldn't have to
one.
reprint the card. They just slap this big black
Yeah.
sticker on. And I don't know if you know,
It looks
but
nice.
it looks okay, but I prefer the pictures on the back. But
Yeah.
I originally collected the Vintage Collection 1.0 up until it finished, and I had every single one of them, including Mouse
it.
Droid, Salacious Crumb. I had them all, and about 3 or 4 years after they finished it, we were moving house, and I thought to myself, well, you know, I don't really look at this anymore. It's all in boxes, you know. So I sold my entire 1.0 collection for far less than it's worth now. And I've basically I've had to recollect it all again. And I'm just devastated that I didn't keep Salacious Crumb and the Mouse Droid, because with that one, and I think it's VC 13, is it? I think the Sand Trooper with the orange pauldron. They're the only 3 I don't.
That one with the Sand Trooper, it's not too expensive. It'll cost you 150, you know, for a nice
It's a bit more over
it's
here.
Not. It's, Yeah. You guys get hammered. I've seen like a lot of like the UK is not too good. It seems like in England when you guys are. I mean, although I watched some of BOE's podcast. I don't know if you know him, Blacked Out Ewoks.
Yeah, he wants to come on.
Yeah. Oh, he's the best. He's got an amazing. He's the guy to talk to about all the variants. He seems to understand. I mean, I don't know anybody else
so much. Yeah.
He seems to have a better handle on what was produced, what wasn't. I love his videos when he walks into Entertainment Earth, and he puts on some good music when he knows what he's bought. And he always gets them on sale. He's not stupid.
Yeah.
Me, I'm kind of a knucklehead. I always end up. I'm getting better with it, but I was paying top dollar. So
yeah.
How often do you pick? How often do you go searching? How often do you pick things up?
It's a disease which you have now, where you're closing your eyes and you're dreaming. You're probably waking up in sweats. You're like, damn, why didn't I buy those figures? What an idiot! You're like, like. I think, but it's kind of like what that Jules guy was saying, and he's no G. That I recommend taking his advice. It's like, you go after the stuff you want. You only live one life too, right? So, like whatever means the most to you, Adam. Like if that was watching Star Wars, with your dad or whatever, and like whoever those key characters are, get the stuff that you really want in whatever form that you want. And because I find there's different generations, right? Like some of the new generation, they don't understand, what this card back means to guys like us, right? Whether it's on a Palatoy card or card back, right? Like I remember that stuff because my neighbor, when I was living in Oakville as a young kid, they were Irish background, but there's a lot of Brits here in Canada. They come over from Scotland, England, you name it, right? My mom's English, right? But and they had the AT-AT. That's how I got my AT-AT, which they called the dog in commonly. You got the dog, like some of the Scots, would say. It's just like the dog, but. So I got that from him. I was able to buy a lot of his collection. That's how I got my snow troopers, that I so wanted like that. And, because I missed out on one of the most difficult figures to get for some weird reason was getting a stormtrooper. Like that one was always sold out wherever I went. That and a TIE pilot that was. You can put the TIE pilot as one of the top favorites. I mean, it's kind of gone down a little bit on my list now of wants. I mean, I do have it on a Kenner card back that I was able to get in the 80s, but it's actually unpunched too.
Nice.
But but you know what? Even still, like with Adam, I guess you would have maybe seen Ewoks or droids. Did you? Right? Well, you were 85.
No.
I guess that would.
No, I missed all of that. No. Not seen that. That's the animated, right?
Yeah. That was a show that didn't do very well. I heard Anthony Daniels was sort of devastated by it. And I think part of the reason was, and I remember watching it as a kid too, it's just like, I was like, I didn't want, in Canada, America, we started swearing, I think, cursing at a young age. I think we were the kids from hell from that generation, but we didn't want to, I didn't want to watch that. I wanted to see live action stuff, right? I wanted to see more Return of the Jedi. So I think that kind of hurt droids, but that's actually a really good cartoon show. Now that I look back at it, it's a shame, that
Adam and I have been threatening to do a podcast where, not a commentary so much, but because Adam hasn't seen them, we'll watch the movies, the Ewok movies and the cartoons, and then we'll come back on after he's watched them and he'll give his honest opinion and review.
We were going to talk about doing something like that for a Christmas special or something.
Yeah.
one caveat or criteria I would try for Adam to put in is you got to keep in mind that these were made like in 1984, right? Yeah. So sometimes, some of the most brilliant or the best parts of it kind of go over your head now because it's just like, oh, whatever. Like when you see, I don't want to spoil the film for you, but there are some good animatronics that they used in those two Ewok films that I thought were pretty good. Do you want me to spoil some of it or?
No, let's hold off. I think we should hold off.
Okay.
Well, maybe you can come on as well, Nick, when we do it, and we can be a case for the defense.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Right, or just to give it some ideas, because you got to remember it's the time that they made those films, and they were just a TV show. Like it wasn't. I think their budget. He filmed it right on his ranch. Apparently, right. George Lucas. The one thing I'll say though, one small spoiler, is they really screwed up this the kid. Remember not the little girl, but her brother in the first movie. Yeah, there were some horrible scenes in there, and I think that kind of showed George Lucas's lack of understanding of how to film and direct. Not to fire shots at him, but I think it really kind of shows there where the problems came in with the prequels. But anyways, but back to the top 5. We're not even getting through this. What are we at? 3?
Yeah.
I think I said. What did I say? Darth Vader, the AT-AT Empire Strikes Back vintage collection.
You had the TIE Interceptor, didn't you?
TIE Interceptor.
Was Slave Leia in there?
Yeah, Slave Leia, and then I guess we'll say the TIE pilot, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so what figure would you like to see that they haven't made yet?
Oh, there's too many.
Yeah.
They should all be. It's ridiculous. See, this
There's
is a
so
whole
many
other.
about
This is
like
a Hasbro.
with the new
Well,
series and
they've done
everything.
it. I can see in your back there, you got on this Saga collection, like they have a lot of gems within there that they've made them, and then the what is it? After Power of the Force 2.
Power of the Jedi was
Power of the
first.
Jedi.
Yeah,
Yeah, Power of the Jedi.
yeah.
Like when that came around 99, 2000, I mean, I wasn't collecting at that point, but they were making a lot of the odd sort of the background characters,
Mm.
and they're pretty good if you're just creating the scene and they're going to be in the distance anyways. Um, yeah, I mean, it's but which ones that they should be doing? I mean, they're making Moff Jared finally. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted him for 38 years or
yeah.
something because
Mm.
I mean, one of the things that we used to do, Adam, is we'd look at the back of our card backs, as Martin would totally understand. You start checking them off,
Yep.
or then eventually I wouldn't want to check them off because I don't want to ruin the card back.
Yeah, we've
You
spoken
know,
about that actually, haven't we?
Adam
yeah,
had, we went to Echo Base in the UK a couple of weeks ago. It's like a collector's event. I'm sure you've heard of it. And we did a little challenge where we had £10. We had to buy each other a
I've
present.
watched.
Oh, right, cool. And basically, this wasn't on camera, but Adam was looking for one of the vintage Kenner card backs, but he was looking for one where someone had checked off or circled the figures on the back, just because that was something I go on about all the time, isn't it, Adam?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
something you used to do. I think it was red pen, hence what we do in your Making the Grade series.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, you always used to do it in red pen. So I was
Yeah.
looking specifically for one with red crosses on it, just in case Martin might have owned that as a kid.
Yeah, I did mine usually in pencil, I think, or
Mm.
or blue pen. I never really had a but eventually I quickly stopped because I found I was trying to read the names and that, and like or read or see the picture. I was like trying to look at the
Mm.
figures, and it was tough. Like when I remember when they came out with the Power of the Force 1, right?
Mm.
And there were times where I'd walk by in a model shop and I'd see the Power of the Force, the skiff,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then I would also see the A-wing, but it was in the droids packaging.
Yeah.
And my brain just didn't register that they were, because I wasn't as used to. I did get a few of the Power of the Force card backs, but where I was, in sort of my vicinity in the GTA, I would only come across more of the Return of the Jedi stuff. I think for some reason I never came across that many Power of the, or I just forgot about that line. Kind of, I did have a few of the coins in that, but it kind of that whole changing of the packaging slipped my mind.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't. I kind of
did,
missed out on that.
I'm ashamed to admit it, but I didn't realize until years later that there was other packaging after the tri-logo packaging. I had no idea Power of the Force even existed. That's how much it passed me by.
They cut the line too quickly, but I found, from what I can understand, it's like certain areas, throughout North America seem to have got a large allotment of them, and I think some areas didn't, some stores didn't really get much of it, right? Or it sold out extremely fast. I remember in '85 I was in the Zellers and they were just bringing in like these big bins of figures, and it was something out of a movie. And I swear to God, all these kids, we came in there, I think it was before Christmas, and we just descended upon these Star Wars, and it must have been on the TV the week before. They were completely cleared out. It was something it was perfect to film for a movie or something, right? It was a total frenzy. And there was Milton was a small town back then, but it was just it was the rave of the day. But anyways.
So you've obviously got a massive collection, but what's your holy grail? What's your figure that you want but you haven't been able to get hold of yet?
Or vehicle.
Or vehicle, yeah.
Like how many can I name? I mean,
what's
you mean a
the
vintage
biggest
collection
one?
or
So
or
for
Kenner?
me, obviously I need the Forlom Zuckus. I need that. I think that's going to be my grail. and I know I'm going to have to spend a bit for it, but yeah, for you, there's got to be
Have
something
you
out there.
heard of the song "I Want It All"? I want it all. I want it all.
You want that? You want the
I
sail
forget
barge,
the
don't
band.
you?
Yeah, but I would put the SDC set above that
Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
would. Yeah,
because it's got the droids, it's got the Death Star, the Return of the Jedi, the Revenge of the Jedi. Like I
yeah,
connect with that
yeah,
completely, right? Because I
yeah.
remember I think I might still have a sticker or something in one of my books that says Revenge of the Jedi. Like
yeah.
I remember being by a movie theater just before it was coming out. I guess I was there to see some other movie that was still being played. Because movies used to play a year past their release date, like they would
Yes,
re-release stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if I was there to see E.T. again or something, but I remember when they were handing that stuff out. I remember my mom talking to this guy, and he was handing out all the revenge stuff and said, "Oh, they're changing the name or whatever," right?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
remember that. It was just that's crazy.
Does it have to be mint,
It's
or would you accept it in sort of any condition?
Well, when it comes down to Kenner, I would take beaters a lot of the times, because some beaters have a story too,
Mm.
right? Like I don't even mind sometimes some of my TVC. If I pick up a figure and it's got a few. I mean, preferably I like it in excellent condition for display purposes, but I don't mind having some beaters either.
No.
But unfortunately, a lot of the beaters that I got were because Amazon, that's not really the experience I want. It's some guy throwing it in a box and it comes all folded, and
Yeah.
that's not really a story that I can relate to. Where when I bought Tebow, it was sitting in a convenience store for like 10 years or something,
Yeah.
or a couple of years after. You know, that's an interesting story to it. Or if you get it from a friend or something like that. But it depends on the story, because there's a story, there's that connection to the figures, or to the the item, right, or whatever
Yeah.
it is, right?
Definitely.
Sometimes that's can be more important than you know than just the piece of plastic, right? Like for me, the card back was the number one thing, but now, like, the figures have gotten so good, in the last 45 years, that it's also the figure. you
Mm.
know as a kid in the 80s, I was like, man, I'm starting to see some of these other lines. I wish they could just make them a little more realistic, because I'd look at my Obi-Wan figure and I'd be like, it looks, they're nice and they're nifty figures, but at the time I dreamed of
Yeah.
getting a stormtrooper that actually looks like a stormtrooper. I was
Yeah.
like, this figure looks like,
Mm.
and especially as the years went on, because some of the other lines were, you know, they were articulated, the detail. Like, I wanted the realism. Like GI Joe was an interesting one. I mean, I loved GI Joe when it first came out, but as soon as I was getting older, I'd watch real military movies and shows, and I was just like, what is this? Now they're making them in like these neon colors. I was done with GI Joe really quickly, even
Yeah.
though I had the Striker or whatever it is, and the attack helicopter that they had, the Cobra, and I think I had that the Marine ship, a few other items of GI Joe, but it just didn't. I'd watch various films and I'd be like, this doesn't look real. And I wanted, we were already on to like movies like Platoon and
Yeah.
Longest Day or A Bridge Too Far. Like, I was already exposed to all that. So I'd escape from school and, kindergarten. I'd run back home and then I'd watch Star Trek and
Yeah.
Spartacus or whatever shows were on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's just I went on the more realistic train. I quickly, got out of that sort of stuff. And then Top Gun was a big film. I watched that in the theaters in '86. So
I still haven't watched the new one. I've got it on my list of I just recently got a streaming service that has it on there, and it's sitting in my waiting list, and I can't wait to watch it because everybody's telling me it's brilliant.
You know what? The first time I watched it in the theaters, Martin, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty good. I think this is really good. Is it really good, or am I just telling myself this is just an average movie?" and it's but now I've watched it two or three times now, and every time I watch it again, I'm like, oh, this isn't just me seeing a decent movie. Finally, it really is extremely well done.
Oh, good. Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I mean, there were a few small things that I would have done slightly differently, but I mean, it's
nothing's perfect.
Whatever. No, nothing is. But I mean, like in some ways, in the end, like some of the scenes on it, it kind of harkens. It works more back, 20 or 30 years ago, I think, in some ways. But besides that, it's I give it an A plus.
Nice.
Can't
say fairer than that.
No.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I don't know why they couldn't learn or not see what they were doing with Star Wars. I mean, but
so
there's a agenda.
Probably for another time, isn't it?
That's probably
because I'm just thinking we're getting bit beyond our time, but it's been great chatting to you. We'll have to have you on again sometime so we can carry on this conversation.
Absolutely, we haven't covered hardly anything really, and I could go. I mean, perhaps we'll stop the record button, but we'll just keep chatting.
No, I'm fine. I'd love to keep on going. You can make it into a part series too if you want.
We'll definitely have you back on to do another part. Definitely.
So big thanks for Nick for coming on today. Thanks for helping me out with my challenge of collecting these figures. If everyone goes over to Nick's channel, I'll leave his channel in the description below, so you can all hit subscribe on that. Obviously, subscribe to us if you haven't already. Hit the like button. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks again, Nick.
Okay, thank you guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate finally getting to talk to you and everything, Adam, the first time. And Martin, we've already connected, but
thanks for coming on, Nick.
We'll get you
cheers.
back on
Thanks,
again.
guys.
Cheers.
Excellent.
See you later.
Cheerio.
Bye.